Ladies and gentlemen, if we can have your attention, please. How's everyone doing this morning? Yeah. With who? What are you talking about, man?
I just posted.
Guys, stop it, really.
So for this seminar, I'm going to be asking you a lot of questions. We're not going to run around with the microphone. So we're looking for some quick answers. Not a lot of discussion, but a lot of quick answers as we move through these four very broad, large topics: successful chapters, national programs, chapter fundraisings, and my favorite, cocktail competitions. There are many moving parts to the USBG, all of which make up our history. This is about, hey everybody, yo!
Can you guys listen up?
Sit down, please.
Take your seats, please.
I will get mad.
You do not want to see me off mad. Because he gets his muddlers out, and...
I would beat you with a muddler. So, you know, we have a lot of history, and part of our history is national events, local events, financial security, the value we give our members, the relationships we have with one another, as well as our partners, the partnerships in general, the competitions, leadership, all of you, the communication we have with our members and one another on the council, and of course the most amazing camaraderie that I've ever seen and been so proud of as my years with the USBG starting the San Francisco chapter in, I think it was 2003. Camaraderie has been one of my favorite words, and it's a real feel-good thing. And obviously, looking around the room here, it's something to be very proud of. So, what makes a chapter successful? You know, what are a few of the qualities of that picture-perfect chapter? And that is a question. What's a successful chapter?
Well, who thinks their chapter is successful? Okay. And who thinks their chapter is not unsuccessful, but needs help to become successful? Okay, now those who said successful, what are the aspects of your chapter that you think makes it successful?
Is that an open question?
Yes,
yes.
I think, Mike Sauce from Atlanta, I think we do a good job having a lot of old guard bartenders from our scene who know their craft and know what they're doing, and reach out to new school guys who are interested but don't necessarily know. So we have a constant influx of new membership, and we don't become elitist about it. So if somebody is a craft bartender and is sitting at a Taco Mac with a guy who just wants, group rate health insurance, then that's an opportunity for them.
It's a great point. We really do need the older, more experienced, or the big personalities to help encourage the younger ones to not feel intimidated. What are some other points?
I think we do a really good job of teamwork, working together, and when the week is busy and we don't have time to tend to our responsibilities within our council, we have a pretty open forum so we can talk and communicate that, and somebody else can pick up that load for that week.
Again, it can't be a one-person run show. It has to be that teamwork, and that's awesome. What else is
Pam back there. So.
Our members are great, but we try to listen to our members. We give surveys, we ask for their feedback, for their participation, and as well, we're always actively recruiting. So whenever any member sits at a bar, a lot of times they're going to be like, "Why haven't you joined the guild? Come to an event, come to a meeting." So I think just enthused members, really pumping them up and giving them what they want, and when that happens, they're really happy, and it comes back.
So I think a theme is integration and really getting everyone involved and making sure it's not like a one-person show or a two-person show, because as you know, you're going to get burned out if you just kind of take on all those responsibilities.
Kim?
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think we're really aligned in our vision. It's, our goals are raising awareness of cocktail culture and driving membership. So whatever we have to do those two things. And I think we've been really good at definitely reaching out and letting our community know. I don't care if you work at TGI Fridays, I don't care if you work at the hottest mixology bar, and try to make it not intimidating. I think that's been great.
I just have a question. I've been hearing a lot of people talk about surveys to their membership. Is there any way anybody would be willing to share something?
SurveyMonkey.com is amazing. It's free.
Yeah.
What?
SurveyMonkey.com.
No, I just mean like some of the
Oh, questions.
people ask.
That's a good,
I think that's great. If somebody would like to email
We could start a discussion thread on Pulse.
Pulse. I like that. All right.
Sam, can you start a discussion thread on Pulse about survey questions?
Yes, I'll do it right now.
Outstanding. So, what makes a chapter successful? Some of the things that I thought about for a successful chapter are, having those regular meetings, that growing membership, not being stagnant, but to continually find ways of encouraging new members. Financial stability, watching that checking account grow. A united council, as we said, working together. And, of course, having relevant meetings that members want to attend. And
Yeah,
that's just-
United Council, making sure everyone is on the same page and everyone, does the job that they're supposed to do. And it oftentimes becomes an issue within your council. And what I would recommend is, if someone's not pulling their weight, you copy and paste the job description of that particular council position, and then you email it to them and you say, listen, this is what you're supposed to be doing. I would like you to do ABC by so-and-so date. If you cannot produce this for me, then we're going to have to talk about, possibly having you step down or something like that.
Because it is, while the president is the figurehead, she should be relying on the rest of the council to support. And again, because we are a democracy, we can, ask somebody to step down if they're not pulling their weight. It just has to be done very PC. Anybody want to add anything else to what would make a chapter successful besides the list and what we've mentioned?
You definitely want to see your numbers, your membership numbers grow. You do not want to see them decrease. I know oftentimes it fluctuates, membership increasing, then people lapsing and decreasing and then increasing again. But
Bobby G.
Don't forget the impact that we're having on society as a whole. How many years ago you'd go into Las Vegas and ask for a Negroni and a guy would say, well, we don't have an Italian beer here.
I did that. That was my first restaurant
A lot
job.
to do with what we do.
Or you go in and you ask for a gimlet and they say they don't have onions.
Ooh.
All right, so a successful chapter is the sum of its parts. No one person's responsibility, but all our jobs. This is not about an individual expression of a top-down organization. A successful chapter has regular meetings, growing membership, financial stability, a united council, meetings that members want to attend. So what is the role of the USBG national organization for your chapter? What part do potentially the board of advisors have on you? How does the national USBG bring value to your chapters? What do you ask? What do you expect from us? What do you think we are supposed to do for you? Bring you education.
Yep.
I know that I've had a lot of struggles in now being a small chapter and kind of getting my footwork, and David's always been like, I can call him, email him, always accessible for all of my little minuscule problems that don't really mean anything in the national spectrum. But I think that just having that mentorship and having somebody to call when I don't know what to do is awesome.
Yeah, use your council advisors, use your regional VPs.
I put my cell phone at the bottom of my email every time I send something out. That is an open invitation. If it goes to voicemail, I'll call you back. I know. 41 chapters.
And I would say, Dave, you've been really great. We've had some struggles with some of the liquor brands, some of them kind of run roughshod in our local market, and I really appreciated the support that you've been able to kind of have our back and be able to kind of, push through it.
Sure. In the past I've heard that, why is the National Council not bringing us more money, not bringing us more sponsorship? And the answer to that is that, that's not our job to fill your calendars. We do the best that we can to create national programs, and we've been talking internally about, how many national programs should we bring to the USBG. We don't want to bring 20 national programs a year. That's too much. If we could do 4 amazing national programs a year, we would be really happy with that. We've been a bit of a yes man lately. Every time a brand comes to us and wants to do something, we're like, yes, because we want to be able to buy cool stuff and be able to fly people certain places and invest in our organization and hire employees that can help us grow. But at the end of the day, we're a support mechanism for 41 successful chapters. We're here to support you, help you, guide you, teach you, but not necessarily do your job. So national partners are part of who we are. To bring your members added value and to develop long-term relationships with brands that will benefit the organization of our members. We want part of these ideal 4 great national programs we bring to you would be an introduction to that team from Pernod Ricard, that team from GQ, that team from Di Serrano, whatever that national program might be. It's another avenue for you to then plan a meeting 6 months later, 4 months later, or the next year. It's just one, we've seen over the years, some of you have said in the past, who do we ask? Who do we call? How do we do this? And again, I think we've covered a lot of that basis because a lot of you are bar managers, a lot of you do have contacts that you do know you do have some of your suppliers on speed dial, but some of you may not. And the answer that I've given in the past was, well, if you're a bartender and you have a bar manager or a bar owner, ask them, hey, who is our Don Julio, rep? Who is our, mezcal rep? So, because we really want to introduce them to the USBG. It's about turning to your left and your right and utilizing your friends and family to build that list of contacts so you can fill your calendar. National programs are one of the things that we do that keep us all connected with one another. National programs allow us to work with brands nationally and bring funds in both locally and nationally. Again, we've put a system in place now where when we do a national program, in order to work with the chapters, they have to make a donation. Maybe it's a little small sometimes, but we are always trying to help build your checking accounts. We want you to be able to buy your own t-shirts. We want you to be able to rent an office space or a storage space to hold your batching containers or whatever it is that you think you might need to help grow your chapter. To do that fun day where it's not brand related, but just simply floating down the river without a brand if that's what you wanted to do. You don't have to work with brands if you build your checking account for that special, one-of-a-type event you want to do. And ultimately, the national program, as I said, is to add value to both our members and our sponsors while bringing us all together, because after all, we are the United States Bartenders Guild. I like that. Nationals is here to help you, guide you, support you, but as I said, ultimately it is each chapter's responsibility to fill up your monthly calendar. And a great way to fill your monthly calendar is by actually putting things on your calendar, on Pulse, so that members can see what's going on. So I can go on and see what you're doing, so that your neighboring chapters can see what's going on and get ideas of what you're doing. Promote your events to your members and to other chapters so that they can see what amazing events are going on in the cities across the country. And because you might get a phone call. Oh my God, you got so-and-so to give you X amount event. That sounds like a great tiki event. We want to do an event like that. How'd you do it? We want to be able to share these great ideas so that you can put on successful events, because I've heard, complaints about, I can only get 12 people to show up. What are we doing wrong? I can help answer that question, but there's another 100 people in this room that can answer that question as well. And that's what we really need to rely on our fellow council members to do that. And is there room for improvement? Of course there's room for improvement. I would love to, to ask what is that we need to improve on. Getting involved to help create the programs committee that we've talked about by filling out the document. Let us work together to present ideas for a new take on events that can add value to both our members and our sponsored partners. So again, I don't want to do only competitions. We've talked about getting educational material up on Pulse, but as Aaron mentioned earlier, I would love to see a roadshow education. I would love to see going to 41 cities that's focused on education by a brand sponsor that will do a huge seminar on just cachaça, where they've brought together 7 different cachaça brands to do a full, in-depth seminar on cachaça. That's going to be added value, where you taste all of them. We've done it already, but have we done it across the country? How do we make that happen? We're finding partners that will invest in us to do that traveling roadshow. Any other thoughts on what we could do to improve or change, or what types of national programs that you might like to see?
Flair.
Working on it. Outstanding.
I'd like to see some wine and beer.
Wine and beer. Again, we've actually talked a little bit, talking to Heineken about a potential Cicerone training or something like that. I don't know if it's going to pan out, but we're talking about it. I love it. Wine is great. Back there?
Actual business training.
Actual business training.
Woohoo! Wait, let's dig into that one. I just need a marker. Anybody got a marker?
Yes, over here.
All right, cool. Business training. When we say business training, there's a lot of things about business. Tell us about business.
Bar operation.
Okay.
Administration.
Fundraising.
Mostly I just been out.
Wait. Hang on one sec, guys. I'll have Dave call on people so I can.
Chris, finish your thoughts.
We got admin.
Oh, I just said I just wanted to hang out in 15 Romulo and watch him work.
Raise your hand if you have a business idea.
Structure.
The Bar Smarts continuing education this year in New York was about how to open a bar, and it was a very cool panel. It was just a bunch of bar owners that talking about like all the different actual like physical things you need to consider, and they talk spreadsheets, inventory,
And they actually talked about how much money it costs to open up a bar.
and those like practical sort of
So we're
very
talking-
practical panels.
What I'm seeing here is that we have two very distinct tracks of curriculum that we want to be able to provide our members. One is technique and product knowledge of these things that are relevant to a bartender, but there's this other level that we want to add, right? Which is for those people that want to go from bartender or member to business owner, entrepreneur, right? I wonder where there's a place that we could get all that information and share it with all of our members at one time. There are ways to get these other tracks, so let's go ahead and keep going with these ideas because they're awesome.
I think a national convention for USBG members, not just a leadership conference, but a convention for everybody to come.
2,600 people coming together. I love that.
A conference for all members.
Right here.
Over dinner last night in a very loud restaurant, me and Ethan over there, we were talking. We had I think it's a good idea. Maybe we were a little drunk or something like that. But it's combining that issue of doing competitions with also business idea as well. We've got so many great connections and so many people have gone out to start their own businesses. That's a resource that I feel is severely underutilized in the USBG.
So be specific. What do you mean?
So specifically, we were talking about the business plan competition. You write up a business plan, you submit it, and whoever actually has the best business plan, the prize isn't a physical prize. We're not going to give you like $50,000, but you get a personal, evaluation of a business plan from somebody like Sean, who has so much experience opening new businesses.
Great.
It's an incredible idea. We're actually, just so I can speak on that, we're currently working on Bacardi Legacy for this year. Bacardi Legacy internationally, and I know it may sound a little bit strange, but Bacardi Legacy annual in other world markets and other international markets, part of their program is developing a marketing strategy. Like, how would you develop a marketing strategy, start to finish, to promote the next classic cocktail? That's part of the competition, and we're rewriting the program this year to include that in the United States to help you figure out what is a marketing plan, what does it look like, how do I develop it. And that's one piece of the business plan. So we're not. Maybe we can pull this apart and do it piece by piece, little by little, and then collectively get to this big picture thing. Because I think we might lose some people if we go for the big one all at first. But if we do these little trainings little by little along the way,
Just to follow up quick with that too. I think one of the issues that we're having, I was talking with Allie, I believe, during the happy hour. There's so many of our members who go off to start their own businesses as well, and all of a sudden they disappear from the USBG. Granted, they're going to start these businesses, but they're opening bars and none of their bartenders are members of the USBG afterwards. Where's that disconnect happening where people are starting their businesses?
Is that something that belongs in retention?
It certainly does, but it's one of those things.
Yeah. Something should be addressed for sure.
One of the things that I really loved about Pulse was the videos and the postings about how to take care of yourself. So that wellness component, but also not just taking care of your customers and employees, but yourself and each other. Responsibility. I like Squirrel's comment the other day, wherever he is, about, sometimes you end up with a little problem with our industry or your buddies down, that whole.
Yeah. That national the USBG Foundation, I know that's something that they're very passionate about working on for next year. They want to do something internal and work on wellness. So I hope that will get delivered to them and know that there's something working.
Is that Ohio? What is it? What, I forgot.
St. Louis.
St. Louis, thank you.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind. I mean, I think the entrepreneur stuff is great, but like, I think that it'd be also really beneficial if we had something, you know, even like those first steps, like how do you go from being a bartender to a bar manager? How do you go from, you know, how do you just career tracking? You know, it's like here's like possible trajectories, and here's what you need to do.
Absolutely.
If you've ever been a babysitter.
But you know, I mean, I mean, not everybody wants to own their own business, but a lot of it might.
No, that's a different track. How do you go from being an entry-level bartender to being an advanced bartender? How do you go from being a bartender to being a bar manager? How do you go from being a bartender to ruling the world? I mean, we can, you know, really, there's a lot of tracks that we can put on this, and it's all about tagging and organizing our thoughts and attaching information that we already have here to those tracks.
My question.
Naomi first.
Day-to-day operations, you know, we're all in different bars, different types, different settings, things that help improve our day-to-day work. Those kind of suggestions always help.
So that was actually, if I may, tagging onto that, that was what I wanted to bring up as well as far as educational programs, if you're looking to expand those. Questions like what is a hashtag, like that shouldn't be that funny. You know, I mean, for those of us who are older or maybe not as technologically inclined, you know, modern day lexicon can be very confusing. It's very easy to say, go use Facebook. But if you've never used Facebook before, it's maddening as fuck.
So,
and what about Excel, QuickBooks? It's like these tools that
Business math.
A lot of people take for granted. You know, that's it, just to sit down and try to teach yourself that stuff, and I'm hard.
All right.
So Dave, tools
Can I ask a question? Excel, Word, all of those things have seminars out there already. They exist. So what is preventing our members from, what do we need to do to connect those dots? So what it is all of that information already exists out in the world. So why do we need to put it right in front of our members? How do we do that, and why do we need to do that? Why are they not getting there themselves? Is it because they don't have a list of things that they should accomplish? Is it because we're not linking them to the right places? I think
it comes down to a mentor thing too. It's like there are a lot of people out there. We can just if we put people in touch with people who've already done it, then we can direct them to this seminar, that seminar, this software. You know.
I think mentorship is just a great word, and I think this really goes a lot of ways. Yes.
And how are you a good member, a mentor? You know, that's a lot of us probably have people that are looking to us for leadership, and we're not necessarily sure how to deliver on that. So maybe a little bit of how to be a good mentor would be a good thing to educate us on, right?
Kind of highlighting on the beer and wine thing earlier, kind of the lesser known ingredients. We get a lot of really big brands, but there's also national brands that focus on sharing. You know, we can reach out to Riedel and do glassware discussions. I mean, we are kind of the major proponents of
glassware. That's awesome.
Glassware. They can do seminars and tastings on that. I mean, it's just, you know, obviously wine. You know, Moët Hennessy obviously has that whole wine arm as part of their thing.
So, question also. So let's say that we want to do a seminar on glassware, for instance. What is the best way? So national board goes to Riedel and says, hey, our members are really interested in glassware, and they really want to figure all this stuff out. How do I get that information to you so that you can do something with it?
How do you get the information about the glassware?
How do I get the information from Riedel to you?
It's
possible. I'm asking, what's the best way for me to communicate to you? And there's this awesome program that a sponsor has put together for you, and all you have to do is access it and get your members there.
Email.
And you guys respond to emails. Yes. Everybody in the room responds to their emails. Okay.
All right, Frank.
All right, I'll just bring up bylaws, President. Bylaws, respond to those emails.
Frank.
I think one quick thing is that because we are also connected in the industry, you guys do some things. I think you should reach out to us and ask, is anybody involved with the glassware company? Yeah. Is anybody involved in the linen company or knows something?
So more surveys, more collecting information from you guys and then using it.
I mean, I'm just going to make the example of the tablecloths. If somebody had reached out to me, I have a manufacturer because I do tablecloths and hard copy.
And those
it costs me $17.50.
Let's not get into tablecloths right now. But I agree.
I just said, let's reach out.
It's all about relationships and it's all about organization. Unless we're organized and unless we have the relationships to know that, Horace has an awesome person about tablecloths, then we don't get it. That's what regional vice presidents are for, and that's why we're increasing communication to the board. That's exactly, you made an incredible point. We cannot reach out to 2,000 people to find out who has tablecloth connections. So we have to do it. We have to find out an organized way.
For our local chapter. That would have been.
That would have been awesome. We'll make it happen, and we'll definitely.
Why don't you just reach out to the presidents? They can reach out to their members. You know, hey, does anybody have a connection?
Frank Martucci.
I get. No, I think people were talking about the management one. I know that Bar Smart's put on a really good program with their pioneers in mixology with opening a bar. I attended in New York with a bunch of people, and I thought that was really good. But maybe as a national board, we can look at partnerships of doing regional events like the pioneers of mixology and bring that one that seems like everyone wants to know about, opening up a bar. Maybe work with, and we have the meeting with Absolute later on today, that maybe that's one of the things that we focus on, and we do maybe a regional meeting or something like that.
So here has actually opened a bar. Once you get there, and you're out there, and you've got the keys in your hand, you know, it's like there's one thing opening a bar, and then there's another thing like what do you do once you get there? How do you get the butts in the seat? All that stuff. So it's almost like a bar opening 101, getting the doors open, and bar ownership 201, like what to do once the doors are actually open. Because that's the scary part, right? Right.
So going back to my original question is, what other types of national events could we potentially do?
Like, I know a lot of us do this in our businesses already, but having responsible vendor training and knowing what laws in our states we're held liable for.
State liquor laws?
State liquor laws?
Parrish?
Chapter-to-chapter competitions, like...
Chapter-to-chapter competitions.
Like we just did softball in Miami.
Yeah.
What if you spoke of mentors and whatnot? What if you had something that offered leadership coaching and personal development?
Yeah, I love that.
Personal development, I mean, that's a lot of what we do. But I got that.
Before we move on, any last thoughts? Cool. Thank you all. Oh, yes.
I'm sorry, can we dig into personal development a little bit? That's a big idea, and I'm wondering, we've got leadership, developing one's leadership skills. What else?
Personal branding.
Goal setting.
Time management.
Educational scholarship opportunities.
Presentation skills.
Presentation. Okay, I got it. Thank you.
Yes.
I guess there will always be just people that are going to be regular bartenders, but if you're sitting in this room, then I'm going to make certain assumptions about you. With that being said, I feel like every single one of us is here for a particular reason, and my whole campaign has been and always is, it's so unfortunate how many of us are so passionate or so driven. We do this for 20, 30 years, and then at 60 years old, there's not a lot of financial security.
Yes,
it's like,
that's awesome. Good point. Financial planning.
Well, it's not just financial planning. Wellness, financial planning, operating a business, all of these things fall under what I feel should be a larger umbrella, and I think that's kind of what the entirety of USBG needs to kind of work towards. It's from start to finish, how do you move into this industry and how do you step out of it successfully with your health intact, with some kind of financial security behind you. So I think that all of these things should fit into like just a larger national program as far as how do we go from just starting at an Applebee's or a sports bar, how do we, over the course of a 30-year career, maintain our health, maintain our feet, maintain our back? How do we make the transition from all of this should all be, it should all be part and parcel, if that makes any sense. So instead of thinking,
I do.
What I'm saying is that we're taking a kind of bottom-up approach. We're looking at all the individual parts, and we should maybe take a top-down approach and look at the whole picture, and then just kind of everything.
That's a brilliant idea.
So I'd like to keep moving on. I see some hands still. So Elizabeth?
Yeah, that's actually something that I was talking to you last night. Or was it you? Yeah, it was you. I was talking to so many people about so many different things because, I talk. And
One of the things, one of the things I mentioned specifically that I thought would be really awesome that USBG could get involved in is not financial planning as much as it's 401ks, right? Providing our funds like Vanguard or something like that, figuring out if there's a way that on a national level we can create something where the bartenders who are inclined can donate. And our combined buying power would provide us with more with an opportunity for a more stable retirement.
Okay. Let's look at that.
All right, Chris, last person.
I just wanted to attach on the one thing that nobody's saying is emotional intelligence, just gaining it, retaining it, and just
emotional intelligence.
What does that mean, emotional intelligence? Because I have none.
Maturity, being able to fully comprehend your own emotional and psychological state when you're behind the bar, just everyday life when you're getting stressed. In our positions, delegation falls into that as well. Just all the psychological shit that goes into doing what we do, and everybody's talking about their feet and their back.
Cool.
Yeah, the mental.
All right.
That's part of it.
Starting a discussion, I don't know if this will fall into that, about setting industry standards as far as compensation. Events and those kinds of things, like coming together as a group to set.
What do you got?
Just whoever starts the chapter, kind of helping the new chapters, or the new board transition in, and staying involved, even though they do have their own bars now, or they are running their own businesses, and they've won,
So passing the torch appropriately.
Yeah, how to do that effectively, because it's really hard to step in those shoes and try to fill them.
People who have to move on need to plan ahead and train before they actually exit. Yeah. All right. So moving on a little bit, because we have a lot of topics to talk about. What does a chapter event / meeting look like? I can't read that. Is it social? Is it educational? Is it well attended? Does it raise money for your chapter? What does a successful chapter meeting event look like?
So just, if I may give an example of how we started doing it in New York, when, the chapter was already in existence, but I think at that time we had maybe a dozen members. And then when I came on as president, I was given some great advice by you and by Bridget Albert about how to structure your monthly mixers. And I say monthly mixer, you can obviously call it anything, but you always want to make sure that you have that one monthly meeting, one monthly mixer every single month. That not only encourages you as a board, but it also encourages your members, and it shows them that their dues are actually going towards things, and that they'll be able to be educated and maybe get some pretty good food at one of their friends' places and some drinks. So I always, we always started off doing it on Monday, when folks are not working their bar jobs, maybe 4 to 6 p.m. Eventually, maybe starting to do it regularly, like the first Monday of every month or the third Monday of every month, and then essentially structuring it like, so 4 p.m. people start walking in. You have a welcome cocktail by that sponsor brand. 4:15, 4:30, you start calling things to order. The chapter president or secretary or whoever is there at the meeting will talk a little bit about local chapter news, maybe some national initiatives, what's coming up, and then say that takes about 10 or 15 minutes. Then maybe some light nibbles will start coming out, a little bit of food, and then we usually get, what's so funny about that?
Little nosh maybe?
Nibbles, noshes, whatever, schmears. Nibbles or nipples?
Nipples start coming out.
Hey, I don't know what kind of chapter meetings you guys are having. That's the Austin.
What happens after the nosh?
After the nosh, so then I always, we don't want to oversaturate it with brand stuff. So, first and foremost, we try not to make it so that when your members walk in, that it's like, whoa, this is a brand sponsored meeting. We try not to do too much POS, whatever. So after that, then we give the brand an opportunity to talk about, why they're there and their brand. And I think we started by kind of maximizing it to about 15 to 20 minutes of them talking and maybe kind of conversing with you. And then for the last hour, it's just kind of everyone hanging out and talking and mingling and Yeah.
That successful brand chat that they give to us, you know, I think everybody's going to have a different relationship with their partner sponsor at that time. Sometimes, you know, we're excited to see the POS, and we want the free T-shirts and the hats because that's what our members want. Sometimes it's not what our members want, and you know what that is, and you get to coach your sponsor well before that meeting day. You know, we had times when we had somebody come up and talked about how they were the #1 gin in the world, and that, you know, and in Amsterdam this is what everybody drank, or whatever it might be. And it's like, wait, we don't want to hear about how big you think you are. We want to hear about the brand and the history, and we want to hear about the product and how it's made and the integrity of the products. Whatever it is that makes you happy in your region is what you need to coach that brand on before they get there, so they're well informed.
I just forgot a very important aspect, which is like the educational portion of your meeting. So I'm sorry. So before the brand person comes on and does their 15-20 minute spiel, you want to make sure that you have an educational aspect to your meeting that is not brand related. So say you have Belvedere coming in and they're sponsoring, and they give you the welcome cocktail. As your special guest, maybe you want someone who's well versed in how to create different types of ice, or someone from Riedel or someone from your local glassware distributor coming in and talking about different types of glassware.
We had a pickling specialist come in and teach us how to make pickles, and we actually all made our own canned beans and carrots and pickles and things like that. So there's all different ways of having that secondary educational element at your meetings. Parrish.
Can we get an outline of this? Some examples?
It will basically be in the operations manual to some degree. Pittsburgh.
I realize that liquor laws are different in each state, but when you throw some of these bigger events, what about liability?
We have insurance.
Well, we don't have all-encompassing insurance that anything that has a USBG logo is covered.
Scratch that statement.
No, that's not. Usually the venue will hold insurance. Usually.
I'm sure some of that will pass through.
Caterers provide insurance often because they have a policy. But if you would like a general liability policy for your chapter, that is something that we can work on if you want support in finding that. And then when you have an event, you would have to pull a special certificate naming wherever you are and whoever else is there as what is other insured is the
day of liability insurance.
So probably does a lot about insurance.
If you want to do that for your chapter, just to keep yourself, I know it's been an issue in some chapters before. It's not a bad idea. It's not a requirement. But if you're having a big event where anybody besides members is going to be there, it's not a bad
There's a website, totaleventinsurance.com, and that was recommended to me by Christina Lawrence, who helped us with the insurance in New York. So that is day of liability insurance, all online, and it's like $100-something.
Quick question.
Frankie.
Yeah, well, in New York, things have changed a little bit. Jay Post and two around. But we actually have a one-sheet for our partners and sponsors, so they know exactly what we're expecting from them and what they can expect from us. So it's all laid out for them. And we give them a maximum of 30 minutes to talk about their brand. And we demand an educational component to it. And we also started this thing called Talk with a Pro, where we bring in industry leaders to talk about who they are and how they got to where they are. So far we've had Evan Freeman and Julie Reiner and Simon Ford. So that's something that people look forward to as well, just like that talk and getting.
And Frankie moderates, and it's been the best component that's happened to our meetings. It's increased participation of people coming because they're excited to hear from the speaker. So she's done a phenomenal job with just one small aspect to change how an entire meeting.
And if you're a smaller chapter and thinking, well, you're in New York and you can obviously get people like Simon Ford or Dale DeGroff to come, there's no harm in asking. I mean, seriously, a lot of these, they travel all the time. A lot of these celebrity mixologists, they like, Dale, he's readily available and traveling all the time. And talk to your regional VPs if you want to know how to get in touch with these folks. And people like Charlotte and Simon and Chris Patino, they're very open to coming and talking.
Naomi.
And Bobby G.
30 minutes is very generous. We give them 15. We demand an extended educational part. And a good thing for new chapters to do, and something we found highly effective. We're very proud of all the educational seminars that we put on. People like Simon Ford, He's with 86 Company. He's traveling all the time anyway, promoting his line of spirits. So he would happily come and talk about his spirits for 15 minutes and then do an hour on the history of gin.
An hour on the history of gin. So that's the point that I want to make here. I hear people saying, 15, 30 minutes. I'm not talking about, that's their 5 minutes of fame about their company. But it's really about that overall education. I mean, I remember, the first big successful USBG chapter event we had in San Francisco. We had Cognac Ferrand come, and it was a 45 to an hour minute talk on cognac. And we just scratched the surface. I mean, if you think about the history of a lot of these spirits, there's a lot to learn. And we want to bring that education to our members. And you only give them that education if you give them the time in front of the people that are eloquent at talking about that topic.
And another idea is we all go on, many of us go on trips, trips that brands send us to. Maybe we've gone to Oaxaca or we've gone to Cognac. How about like a cool PowerPoint presentation or a slideshow about your trip to your fellow members? I mean, that's just...
We should all be certified USBG trainers in some of our favorite topics.
David.
Yes.
I would say also too, reach out to your distributors. Find out when ambassadors are coming into town. They're usually doing work lists. They need to find work in the market. You can also have an event with that. To Sean and Simon, we did the Big 86 Co kickoff, but we also did a employees only seminar as well. So Bobby's always floating around. So call your distributors.
And make sure your small distributors know about you guys. Sorry to jump into that. We've got a few distributors in Denver that I kept seeing events pop up and like, why didn't we know that, Christoph from Ransom was in town? And they're like, we didn't know about COBG. And we're huge in Denver, but those small guys don't know we exist.
I have a response to that. We've actually appointed to the board of our local council a distributor liaison, because I was tired of that bullshit. I was tired of seeing on Facebook that some big shot was in town, or Jimmy Russell was doing a whiskey masterclass, and I found out the same way every other schmuck did. So we actually, because I was tired of that crap, we just went straight to the source, because the people who know who's coming to town are the distributors, and it's like you can't beat them, join them. So we just put the guy as a council member, and now he's working for us. So now when these people are coming to town, we are the first to know about it, and we get to pick the date, and we get to pick the venue. Because the other thing, and also they love that because it's less work for them. Because what used to happen is we'd find out that Jimmy Russell's coming to town, and he was speaking at a place that didn't give a shit about good bourbon, where none of our members were, because the distributor's agenda is slightly different than ours. So find out who is the most knowledgeable person, and put them on your board.
Yes.
Thanks, Dave.
I just want to play devil's advocate here for half a second. I don't know if it's
quickly.
We have such a chaotic turnout when it comes to different events. We might get 3 people, 2 people, or 50. We're lucky we're a small community, but in our first year we hit 70 members, and which is awesome. But anywhere between 3 and 50 people show up depending on the event. We kind of found it a little difficult personally to demand things.
It's the RSVP list, and there's a document also in the operations manual that will be, I think it's RSVP etiquette or something like that.
Yeah,
we've created.
It's a nasty email I wrote to the San Francisco chapter when they didn't show up.
But it's available if you want some help with that. We don't want to encourage you.
I have a quick question. Well, the events where you get 50 people, what is the difference between that event and an event where you get 3 people?
It's a party.
That's a different. It's not.
Not always. That's not. I mean, that's a.
Basically, we need to make the events we do well written and well advertised and with plenty of notice. We talked about wanting to know about contests early enough. We have to let our members know well in advance of an event coming up. It's a save the date. It's a reminder. Yes, back here.
So I have to say some of our most successful events have actually not been with national well-known people, but actually utilizing some of the smaller distillers locally, and either visiting, like there's a great distillery in South that we did a trip to, and we had a huge turnout. We visited their distillery, the education was, how they set up this business and went about it and tried their products. I mean, it was
it's important. You have to go to the little guys. So first, stop the question. Sorry. Let's move on.
Can I just make one point about that? making a great chapter meeting is the same thing as being a great bartender. It's creating an experience for the people you're supposed to be creating the experience for, right? How do you get people to come back to your bar? By delivering on their expectations or exceeding them. It's the same thing you have to do in your chapter meetings. It's the exact same thing. So you need to know what your members want before they do. You need to be able to provide that in advance with enough notice for them to get there, and you need to over-deliver on what they want. That keeps them coming back, it builds a relationship of trust, and that's how you get good meetings in the future.
Look at this next slide. The proof is in the pudding. Plan, organize, communicate, delegate, the what, when, why, where, and how. This is what we have to look at when we're actually planning our meetings, our sessions, whatever it is you want to call it. Planning a USBG meeting could be, all events must answer the question of the who, what, when, why, where, how, with what being conceptualize the idea. Talk, meet, plan, and confirm. There has to be a food element. Feed your members so that they can actually pay attention. When you pick a date that works for not everyone, but as many people as you think you can get there, and are there events going on that day? Look at the calendar. If you have a full calendar, and if you actually pay attention to the other cocktail weeks or whoever else is in town, you don't want to pick that date. Be smart about that. Pick a date that allows people to plan and save the date. And of course, why? Why? Because we're bringing education and value to our members, or something along those lines. Find a sponsor that will meet the needs of what you're trying to accomplish. And that's only going to be done through communication. And of course, the where. Where is important. It's great when we can support our fellow USBG members, but it doesn't always work. But we have to find a location that makes sense. Sometimes the sponsor wants to pick the location. You approve it or you disapprove it. It's that level of communication. And of course, how? Communication and planning are key here to discuss with the brand and the event space to determine exactly what everyone's role is and what they're committing to do. So that it's not, you don't show up on one day and say, "Where's the welcome cocktail? I thought the account was doing it," or or we never got the product, or the account never brought the product in, or it was never donated, or whatever your state laws are that allow it. You never, asked. We got the hotel to purchase alcohol, so we had it in here. We planned ahead to make sure that we had cocktails.
As a not-for-profit, do we have any special powers as far as getting donations versus?
We are not allowed to accept donations because we're not 501c6, not a C3.
Okay.
Contributions.
I mean contribution.
That's states control that. States control that. Some states don't mind, and other states do, and we got to leave that up to the suppliers because they're the ones with
it's the relationship you have with them. Sometimes that case will drop off at your restaurant and you bring it over, and sometimes you have to buy it, and sometimes they will bring samples to taste. It's about that relationship and that communication. If you don't talk about it, you'll never know.
Yes.
Dave, on the supplier side, it's easier for us to supply product than it is to supply money.
Sometimes.
It's true.
It totally depends on the supplier.
Yep, and depends on where they are in the budget and what it is what they have earmarked for events. So a successful event is where your members are excited to attend. What are some great ways to get your members excited about the USBG? Question. What gets you excited about the USBG?
Sending someone to Portland Cocktail Week is huge. We got a meeting for that specifically and had some of the highest attendance in recent memories.
Incentives. That's a good
The point system that Vegas does.
Right.
Yeah.
What else are some incentives to get people excited?
Authenticity. More than incentives, I feel like when you're genuinely passionate about what the fuck you're doing, like other people see that, it becomes contagious, and then it cuts down on the amount of what I call t-shirt wearers in the organization. You get more people that are actually there to be a part of it.
There's nothing that's more powerful than a personal invitation and a handshake, and I'd love to see you at the event next Wednesday night. Pam?
Food. I'm not even kidding. Food gets people so pumped to come to things.
You got to feed them. They're waking up at noon, and the meeting's at 1:30. It's breakfast, it's brunch.
It's a good place also. Everyone come out.
Naomi.
One of the biggest hooks that we use is constantly reminding people about health insurance. And also to engage interest.
Okay. Right.
Balancing events.
Balancing
education, making sure you're having parties, you make sure to do post Mardi Gras parties, after our season's done.
So having a variety of events, so it's not just the dry, education is great and I love it, I want to go to all those education meetings, but not everybody does. Some people do want to sorry to use the word pub crawl, but I've had a great trolley ride to San Francisco where we just had 3 stops. It was a lot of fun.
I think making sure you differentiate between your USBG only events and then those events that you're just being invited to by a brand. Because, as a USBG member, you obviously want to be able to value your commitment and your membership dues. So by saying this is only for USBG members, it gets people excited because they get to come together as the community.
Now, yes, Nicole.
We also like to incorporate something that's a little bit fun. Like we did a laser tag event. Like just silly stuff that's not necessarily booze related. Like we have our educational component there, and we had it at the laser tag place, like with a bunch of kids.
Camaraderie.
Funny. But just doing something that's unique that people don't do every day.
That's right. I've been a big proponent of stuff we all get. Granted, some stuff is a bit much, and some stuff, but I do like some stuff. And I was excited when I saw the first Fernet coin. I thought the Fernet coins were great. So what did I do? I went out and made some USBG coins that were not branded because I just wanted to have some that were just ours. I wanted to get the wristbands. I wanted to have some stuff that was just for us and our members. And when I went to Tales of the Cocktail and I started handing out some of those wristbands, I can't tell you how excited people were to get that USBG swag. It's a great way of things that you could buy that you can give to your members as a reward system for showing up. When somebody comes up to me on the street and says, "Hey, can I get one of those?" I'm like, "I haven't seen you in 6 months and now you want a coin? Come to a meeting and I will reward you." There's little things we could do. It is what it is, but it's true. So I think that cool swag is all right. So what makes a chapter successful? Fundraising. One thing we need to have is money in our checking accounts so that we can buy swag or that non-branded event. I'm sorry? Or tablecloths. Yes. There's no doubt about it. Watching the chicken crowd go feels good. What are some challenges that you have had raising money? Has anybody had?
What chapters are actually asking brands for money to sponsor their events, and what chapters are not?
What chapters are not asking to raise money? So right there, I think it's a missed opportunity because there's things that you get to do with that money that you can't do without it. And it's great to be able to go to an event that the lunch is taken care of, but the other day you're walking away from that event with nothing to build your chapter on if you want to get t-shirts. Elizabeth.
Well, we're actually in the process of building our chapter. So we're still working with, and Washington State changed their laws recently.
Sure.
So everything is just a miasma, it's a mess. And part of the struggle that we're facing right now, I don't even know who our brand ambassadors are for some brand. Because Fratelli sends nobody to Seattle. And
so it's a challenge, absolutely. But the thing is that we have to have that goal, that anticipation of how we are going to start raising money. So when we started the San Francisco chapter, I was asking for $50. Then as we grew, I asked for $100. And then it was $250, and now it's $500 when we do a proper sponsored event. You don't have to go big. You just got to say, if you want to work with us, we need something for our kitty. Cool?
Yep. Question. Let's say you're in a smaller market or city that's maybe a little removed from a larger city.
Sure.
And you're having difficulty getting brands or distributors to actually even be interested in doing investment, let alone paying for them. What's the next best way to raise money, in your opinion, that you've seen, like in terms of that's not doing it?
Hold on, a car wash. No, we're really short shorts. No, you've got to build your membership. You have to show value of your chapter to them. So, maybe you don't take some sponsorship dollars at first just to get that small meeting, but you promote the hell out of it with your bartenders. So when you get 15 or 20 or 30 people to show up, and they say, "Wow, this is really great. This is a real investment of our money. We want to do this again in 3 months." They come back in 3 months. Yes, now you have to give us a donation, or I'm sorry, a contribution to us. So again, you have to show value of your chapter to be able to do that. Brandon.
And along with that point, just as a recommendation, take photos, take videos, create media, and then you can use that as a selling point for the
Maybe put it on Twitter.
Twitter, put it on Pulse.
Pulse. There's great ways.
The expectation of when we're having brands sponsor events, is it supposed to be they sponsor the event plus we're looking for that donation on top of that?
That is what I envision, absolutely.
We keep running into the issue right now where like people balk when we throw out that $500 figure, and then we end up. Like,
It also comes down to the value. Do you have enough members showing up to justify that?
Yeah.
If 10 people are showing up, I would balk at it too. Right. But so we need to make sure that we are delivering to make that relationship positive, so that we can do that.
We actually have a sliding scale so if it's a really small brand, we'll judge less.
And I am cautious of sliding scales, just because when one brand tells one brand that we did the same thing for $100 that you have to pay $1,000 for, so you need to be very cautious. I'm not saying not to do it, but I'm saying you need to be aware of that. It doesn't sound always so great.
It's kind of a question for the group. What about group rates for larger houses that want to do multiple events? Maybe not, like you were saying, things that they just invite us to, but then also.
Can you give me an example?
Bacardi, it's in our backyard. They want to do stuff with us all the time, but us asking them for $250 or $500 all the time for everything they do, we've talked about giving them like a flat rate, so that we know about all their stuff that's going on.
They see the value in your membership. They see the value in the size of your chapter. My first thought is no. Okay. Because, they've got the pockets and you're delivering. If you're not delivering and it's a challenge, you want to raise that money and you'll do whatever you can, then you have to tweak it a little bit.
We were discussing having, to that point, different echelon of partnership sponsors. So having a gold sponsor that takes care of you throughout the year, that you do a certain number of events for a larger contribution, and then a silver and a bronze sponsor for those smaller brands that would want to partner with us through several events, one a quarter. Say we know, our vice president is on the distribution side, so he knows within his marketing dollar, he's going to do one per quarter, utilizing the USBG and paying our pockets back. But then he'll work with other sponsors to say, I'm going to do it this year. Do you want to match and throw in on a gold sponsorship? And that's something that we can.
If you come up with a system that works, that you can keep track of and deliver on. Again, we're not telling you how to do it. We're just having a discussion about it.
I really like that.
There's a leveraging opportunity to that too, because if you're Miami and you're Bacardi, you're like, hey, they're a gold level sponsor for us, Diageo, Jim Beam, so they're going to have our voices. We would love to have your voices there too, with what we can deliver, and making sure, most importantly though, you're setting those expectations down in writing up front, so that there is no mystery at the end of the year that their sponsorship dollars were met and your needs as a chapter were met.
Well, and they're all starting to put money aside for all of us, and they make their plans way in advance. So
it makes sense because they do quarterly swipes. So they come in, they roll that quarter, give you a swipe, and then all you
Plus, you're not hitting them up over and over and over again.
So let's.
Like an ATM.
Right.
So two more questions here, and Reza. So you're here first.
I was going to also suggest we do a couple of very large-scale consumer-facing events of the year that we charge ticket prices for.
Great way to raise money.
And they raise probably 40 to 50% of our revenue for the year, and it's not based solely on just the brand's contribution.
So a cocktail week or a cocktail event style that's USBG focused with USBG bartenders and cocktails. Reza.
I have a lot to say on this subject because as former president of our chapter, I almost exclusively conceived, organized, executed a lot of our chapter events. And I did not realize that there was this level of range, let's just say, and experience in organizing this stuff. And my first offering to Pulse will be outlining how to conceive, manage, and execute a successful chapter event. And some of those topics will include curriculum, which is kind of like binding this all together, which is what's the most appropriate time of the year to, and we have the power to choose whom we want to work with as far as suppliers and products go, what type of an event it's going to be. Is it going to be entertaining? Is it going to be educational? Is it going to be a mix of both? Are we going to engage consumers? And then having there be some level of continuity, and then ultimately the takeaway, which is, are people going to remember this as a fun event, again, educational, and so on. So God damn it, I think I just overcommitted to contributing something to Paul's.
It's being recorded, Reza, so we are.
We got playback, man.
We have to move on. We're running behind, so I just went through about 15 slides. So let's talk about a huge tradition of the USBG, and that is our cocktail competitions. Aaron and I have playfully talked about it is our funny little hat that we will wear sometimes. It is what we do that's different.
You own that? You own that?
I don't own that hat, actually. That's a nice little fez. Our competitions, for many people have been a big turnoff. It's not how we bartend. It's not the way we work. It's not what we do. And that's okay. It's the way other bartenders do it in other parts of the world. And it's what we've been doing for the past since 1948 as part of the IBA contest. It's a way of learning new ways of working behind a bar. It is a blind catch and flair. It is one little thing that we do that we will learn how to do that we're never going to be at our bar and grab a bottle and show everybody that bottle. That's silly. But there are plenty of things that you could do during a formal cocktail contest that you can incorporate into your day-to-day work. And it's a way of being proud of what you do. It's taking this one time, this one event that we do, and really putting all of the messy spills and the shortcuts that we might be taking, and really just focusing on presenting a beautiful cocktail with pride and passion, and following rules that are above and beyond anything you could ever imagine, by building a tray and not touching things the wrong way. When I was in Prague for the World Cocktail Contest just last week, I entered a non-alcoholic cocktail contest. They needed somebody to step up and do this, and so I hadn't competed in over 5 years, and I said, I'll just do it for fun. And so it was a sparkling water cocktail contest, and I grabbed my glass, my glass to pick up and polish it, and I grabbed it about halfway from the bottom, below the halfway mark, and I'm like, that's what we do. I got marked off. He says, no, in these contests, you need to grab it at the base. And I wanted to roll my eyes. But at the same time, it just goes to show you that, we've been telling you to grab it below the thing, but in Europe they're saying for these contests you have to grab it at the very base. Anything below, above a third is not appropriate. I'm like, I didn't know that. So, it's not that I'm going to change the rules on you or anything like that, but I'm just saying that there's things that we do a little bit different, and these cocktail contests are just one way. So, 1978, we've got some pictures of old USBG magazines, and I've scanned through them, but that's, the old guard. These are the old timers that took it very seriously. I think the guy in the center worked at one of the famous tiki bars in Los Angeles. Here we've got some of the Vegas guys on the left, me on the right when I didn't have any hair. That was at the Las Vegas World Cocktail Contest, where 49 countries came to. There's been a lot of tradition, and one of the things that, I wanted to do away with, because we had a lot of kickback from our members, was the red coats. The red coats were outdated. They made us look like security guards. Hold on, Bobby G. Hold on. But, and we wanted, it's like, to compete, who's going to go out and buy a red coat?
Ooh.
A couple, right? But the point that I want to make is that most of us, if I say we're going to have a contest and you have to wear a uniform, it was much easier to say you have to bring a black coat. Let's just keep it nice and simple and straightforward. I am all for bringing back the tradition, and may we find a way of incorporating some of the real old traditions of the USBG. But for the general market of the USBG, I just don't think it's realistic, because the coat that I bought, it felt like, it was pathetic. It did not feel like I should be wearing it. It felt like it should be on a mannequin, somewhere. It was horrible. And I knew that I could buy a better black coat, and I knew that I could look good in a black coat, and after the competition I can go out and not be stared at. And I wasn't the only one that felt this way. A lot of us did. So we have on the bottom left, we started bringing in some of the black stuff. Now, Bobby G is one of our oldest, longest members of the Las Vegas chapter. He's not old, he's just one of the oldest members. and he is a true proponent of that red coat, bringing it on. He's so proud, and he and Tony and Livio and Francesca, who are from the Vegas chapter, and who made this all possible, because they started the Vegas chapter, which is number 2. They brought us into what we are here today. If it was not for Bobby G and the guys in Vegas, we would not be here today at this capacity. I learned from them. I do have my red coat in the closet. So again, the tradition of the USBG. So why have a competition? You know, who benefits? Our competition's fun. I think that all of these things are yeses. There's lots of benefits to all of these things, and we have to make them fun. They can't be dry. They've got to be, a positive. They have to be well organized. Putting on a competition is a lot of work. All eyes fall on us as the council to make these events work. The more we plan, prepare, and share the workload, the more successful your competitions will be. You can't wing a competition. It takes weeks of planning, and we know we have to give you weeks to be able to plan and give you the tools.
6 weeks.
And 6 to 8.
6 to 8
Yes,
weeks.
I mean,
6 to 8 weeks. Minimum.
yes. Again, some of these things that have rolled out because we're trying to make people happy. And Aaron is a huge proponent of this. We want to give everybody plenty of time. We're not going to, just because somebody says we want to do a competition in 30 days, the answer is now no. We can't. For these competitions to be successful, we have to ask our members to volunteer. That's how I met Aaron. Aaron was a member of the San Francisco chapter. He volunteered at the 2009 national contest at the Starlight Room, and I saw him taking charge as a volunteer. After the competition, I walked up to Aaron and said, Aaron, I want to get you involved in the local chapter. Would you be on our council in San Francisco? And what position was your first in San Francisco?
VP.
He was the VP in San Francisco, and as soon as I became national president, I swooped him right into nationals, and look what he is able to do for us. He is able to unite so many of us, bring us on board. So I challenge you to look at your members and find the Aaron Gregory Smiths, the Jonathan Pogashes that are out there that are hungry to help.
Starving.
So the rules of a competition, why must we do these things? You have a question, quick.
What's our recourse in the case of a brand putting bartenders into a USBG competition that aren't USBG bartenders?
They can't. If the GQ one, there was the rules that came in for the GQ thing allowed it. We didn't catch that. It's a national program.
Yeah, let's talk about that just very briefly. USBG competitions are for USBG members, absolutely. There is some value, I think, on both sides to allowing entry points to be open. It's a good opportunity for us to meet people who aren't already in our membership roster. As far as qualifying and representing, obviously only members should be able to qualify and represent their chapter.
So maybe they get to compete.
But I understand this is an added value for you guys. This is what this creates value in your chapter. This is one of the reasons you want to be a member, so you can compete. We do not want to undercut that at all. So we need to figure out a way to be open, but also maintain the value of the
Vice President Frank Martucci.
Yeah, no, and it's also a great way for us to work with Bombay Sapphire to grow membership. They also have a platform where if you win the competition that you do get a part of the membership to USBG, so it does grow local membership as well.
So on these photos here, Tony Abogano, this is some still shots that came from the video shoot that we did. He's prepared his tray, his presentation. He's organized. Everything is there. He is double checking his glasses to make sure that they're polished. He's showcasing the brand that he's using. He's shaking with a smile and having fun. He's pouring from left to right and right to left to ensure that all the cocktails are even and the same, not filling up one glass at a time where there might be some difference between each individual drink. And he's proud of the drink that he made. That's what the USBG is all about. All those things. We're working cleanly, smartly, proudly with brands that we like, having fun, and creating cocktails that everybody will want to enjoy and anticipate drinking.
Can I add one quick tip? Double straining adds a lot of time to your cocktail presentations.
So if you can do your presentation and double strain, then you can.
Right.
But if you have to make sure.
Test yourself.
Yeah, some of the fine mesh strainers are super, super fine. Any quick questions, because we're over on competitions directly?
How do we handle when the brand is not really following the rules that they've set for their competition? Because that's causing issues with our members. For example, the Bombay.
We go to the top. We email chain, start. you send them the rules. This is not okay. This is the approved contest. Sometimes, like we had in Phoenix, there is the local person thinks that they want to do it a certain way and they're not following what their bosses told them to do. So sometimes it's just not, locally they're not always linked in with the national conversation. Sometimes there is a communication gap.
What about transparency for scoring?
Transparency, you know what? I think this is a great thing. When I was in Prague, it was the first time that they were showing the scorecards for the technical aspect to the competitors immediately after they performed, explaining exactly what I did wrong. He looked at me and said, David, this is a bit of a disaster. And that was okay. But I was like, oh, that, you know, so I think that it should be shared with us, and I think there should be comment sections for judges to write things down. And if the judges know that they're going to be showing them, they're going to take it a little more seriously as well in the back.
We suggested some of us shared them. We talked about, and this is specific to the Sapphire competition because we have an issue that's arisen or that I've heard of. I wasn't there with our Sapphire competition about scores having to be submitted to national. I have not seen the score sheets, but one of our judges got intoxicated and told another entrant that their drink was actually a 12-point favorite and that they should have won. Their drink was too balanced and it was given to someone who more expressed the gin even though they scored lower. I have not seen the score sheets, but I feel that especially for these large national competitions, they should all have to be submitted to national for review.
I think this is absolutely, this is about transparency, and I think that we're hearing you loud and clear, and I think that's what we all want. And it might take a little bit of time to make this all happen, but there's absolutely no reason why when we collect those scorecards that they can't, you know, the thing with competitions, sometimes judges will talk amongst themselves, sometimes they keep it totally quiet. You've judged contests before, sometimes it's helpful to talk to the person next to you. But are they in turn going to be changing your mind a little bit? When I'm at the IBA, there is zero talking. I give my scorecard, they add them up, it's all on paper, there's no conversation. That's something that makes sense, but I've been to plenty of contests where I really want to talk to Summer Jane Bell about her thoughts on that cocktail because she might pick something up that I didn't pick up, and I want to, and maybe it will, oh, you're right about that. So maybe I want some of that. So again, that confuses things a little bit. And at the bottom of the scorecard, it says, did the base spirit, the sponsored spirit come through in the cocktail? There's a lot of value on that when it's a brand sponsored. If it's an amazing tiki drink, but I can't taste the rum because they use so much orgeat or so much falernum, and I can't taste that rum, then, it's a great drink, but they didn't satisfy the promise of the competition was to showcase that spirit. So again, there's 1,000 things to look at that can affect it, and we have to be clear on the rules.
What I'm being told is that score-wise, the person that did not win had 12 points higher than the person that won.
And that just sounds ludicrous and horrible, and we need to put systems in place that will prevent that from happening.
Right.
And it's part of your job as presidents and organizers of competitions to have that thought process and say, okay, I'm going to collect these scorecards, and you're going to put them in a room and say, you're not talking, you can't talk, it's a blind judging contest. Back here, Nicole.
We did something a little bit non-conventional for the Sapphire this year. We had our three blind judges in the back and tech judge up front. But before we announced the scores or announced the winners, all of the competitors went back and sat down and talked to the judges. The judges didn't tell them their score. They didn't tell them what they pointed them on. They just said, this is what we thought about the drink. It was like American Idol style. Each person had something individual to say about the drink. I got a lot of positive feedback on this. A lot of my members are doing competitions to learn. A lot of them are young buck kids that are coming in for the first time. This was something that gave them like a lot of enthusiasm.
I think it's great feedback that our members deserve to have. No more questions. I'm sorry. This is a great opportunity for those of you that are passionate to help form this competition committee, judging committee. So take somebody getting involved. We're going to end the seminar. Jonathan.
Yeah, I wanted to leave everyone with an interesting tidbit, and I don't know if you all know this, but as bartenders, we're always thinking about our forefathers. Jerry Thomas, Harry Johnson. I don't know if many of you know, but first of all, Harry Johnson was a contemporary of Jerry Thomas and was a bar owner and bartender, and he wrote the new and improved Bartender's Manual on how to mix drinks. And And actually in 1875, when he was working in New Orleans, he tried to create a bartenders union. And so I always think about that when I think about the USBG, because although the union did not stick, it did not come to fruition, the USBG in 1948 was inspired by Harry Johnson in 1875 for trying to start that union. So I always keep that in mind when I think about tradition.
So thank you all. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you got something out of this. And Baron, what's next?
We got a 5-minute break. Stretch your legs, go to the bathroom, grab some water, grab some coffee.